Charlie Kirk, one of the youngest and most controversial conservative activists in the United States. Some see him as a rising political influencer, while others criticize him as a promoter of division and disinformation. Today, we'll break down 12 facts about Charlie Kirk that reveal who he is, what he stands for, and why he's so talked about. In 2012, at only 18 years old, Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point USA, an organization that set out to promote conservative values on college campuses.
Confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point.
His mission was to counter what he described as a dominant leftist culture in universities. What's remarkable is that he started this movement without a college degree himself, proving that ambition and networking mattered more than formal education in his case. Today, Turning Point has grown into a well-funded nationwide network with thousands of chapters. But from day one, it was Kirk's way of declaring that young conservatives would no longer be silent on campus. Kirk didn't just stop at grassroots activism. He quickly realized the power of media. Over the years, he launched The Charlie Kirk Show, hosted podcasts, and became a frequent guest on Fox News. His appearances often focused on cultural battles, free speech debates, and criticism of progressive policies. Kirk mastered short, punchy talking points that worked perfectly for television soundbites and social media clips, making him a familiar face far beyond college campuses.
You said race, sex, and age
Right.
is not incorporated.
Correct.
I think you should have a full picture of a human being is when you hire them.
So you care about diversity?
No, actually I don't.
Charlie Kirk is also an author. His first major book, Time for a Turning Point, came out in 2016, laying out his early political philosophy. Then, in 2020, he published The MAGA Doctrine, which was essentially a handbook for understanding Trump's vision of America. His writing doesn't aim for academic depth, but rather accessibility, speaking directly to young conservatives who feel alienated by mainstream culture. Through these books, Kirk positioned himself as not just an activist, but as an ideological messenger of the Trump era. One of Kirk's most defining traits has been his unwavering support for Donald Trump. He campaigned actively for Trump's elections in both 2016 and 2020, and Turning Point USA often aligned itself with Trump's populist messaging. For Kirk, Trump wasn't just a candidate, he was the proof that conservative populism could challenge both Democrats and the Republican establishment. Even after the controversies of 2020, Kirk doubled down, often repeating Trump's claims and keeping his movement in step with Trumpism.
And now we've got our country back. Let's do this, baby. Come on.
Let's go.
There it is.
Clean up, clean up, clean up.
Kirk is often described as one of the youngest conservative leaders to gain national attention. By his early 20s, he was already rubbing shoulders with high-profile politicians, donors, and media figures. Critics argue that he owes much of this rise to wealthy backers, while supporters see him as proof that young people can reshape American politics. Either way, his age has been both a tool for credibility among Gen Z conservatives and a lightning rod for criticism from opponents who see him as inexperienced.
First of all, the idea that we do not have socialized medicine or a test case for it in the States is incorrect. The Veterans
If you see the veterans, oh God.
$180
that's terrible.
billion a year
how
we
disgusting.
spend trying to help our
disgusting.
veterans.
Charlie Kirk built his reputation as a radical critic of what he calls liberal indoctrination. On campuses, he positioned himself as the defender of free speech against political correctness. But his critics say he thrives on provocation, deliberately stirring outrage by mocking Democrats, progressive activists, and especially university culture.
I want to be
Property.
clear. I am pro-representative government,
Okay.
but I'm not pro-democracy. That's a big difference, and that distinction's important. But you asked very specifically about democracy, which is
Okay.
not an American value. It never has been and never should be. My next claim is that college is a scam.
This style made him a favorite at conservative conferences, but also ensured he was a frequent target of ridicule from the left. Love him or hate him, his confrontational style is part of his brand.
Do you think men can give birth?
Do I think men can give birth? I think that
Yes or no
person-
question.
Over the years, Kirk has been accused of spreading conspiracy theories and disinformation. From casting doubt on election results to amplifying unverified claims about COVID-19 policies, his name often comes up in discussions about the dangers of misinformation.
That would mean 1.2 million people died after getting the vaccine.
He had to say yes, that he understood. He clicked on that disclaimer, but he's spreading the misinformation anyway. He's doing it anyway, because it's his bread and butter. This is what he does.
Supporters defend him as simply questioning mainstream narratives, while critics argue he's fueling distrust in institutions. This dual identity, truth teller to some, agitator to others, has followed him through every stage of his career.
And look, I think states created the federal government did not create the states. And the beauty of individual liberty is if you decentralize the federal government, you can restore freedom back to the people, not have government rule our lives every day.
Now that sounds very similar to Gary Johnson's platform.
Similar? It sounds similar to the Constitution too.
Do you mind if I ask you, who you might be supporting for this election?
Yeah, I will. It's a binary choice. I think we got to save the Supreme Court. I personally, not the organization, I'll be voting for Donald Trump.
Charlie Kirk has been outspoken on foreign policy too, especially regarding Ukraine. He has criticized the Biden administration for providing massive aid to Kyiv, calling it a waste of American taxpayer money. Kirk often repeats the line that the war in Ukraine isn't America's problem and insists the U.S. should fix its own issues first.
So do you not believe that we should continue monetary support to Ukraine?
No, I mean, a lot of countries do things wrong. That doesn't mean we should be involved, right? I mean, Syria right now is killing a bunch of Christians. It's getting almost no press attention. There's a civil war right now in Africa that's getting almost no press attention. Not every conflict warrants American involvement. And right now, President Trump is trying to broker a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine, which is the right move. And our perspective as conservatives is as follows. The amount of money we spent on Ukraine is about $300 billion so far. And during Biden, we didn't spend any money on our own southern border while we were being invaded on a daily basis. President Trump is instead saying American borders matter a lot more than the borders of Russia and Ukraine.
This position reflects a broader isolationist trend inside the Republican Party, one that questions endless foreign commitments in favor of focusing inward. Kirk takes his criticism further by framing U.S. support for Ukraine as America being dragged into a foreign war. He frequently warns his audience that billions are being spent overseas while domestic problems like inflation, crime, and border security remain unsolved. This framing resonates with parts of the Republican base who see foreign aid as a betrayal of America First priorities. In his broadcasts, Kirk makes it clear he sees Ukraine not as a moral crusade, but as a distraction.
Why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine? Why are we sending $200 billion to Ukraine? By what are we getting out of this?
Another key talking point of Charlie Kirk's is that the war in Ukraine is simply not important for everyday Americans. He contrasts it with domestic struggles like rising costs of living, student debt, and cultural battles inside schools. By constantly repeating that Ukraine isn't a priority, Kirk taps into the skepticism many Americans feel about foreign involvement. His message is blunt: let Europe handle Europe's wars.
And so a nation has to choose which enemies are you going to focus on? Because we have a lot of them. Is it North Korea? Is it Iran? Is it Russia? Is it China? I think the Mexican drug cartels have done a lot more damage to the people of Tennessee alongside the Chinese Communist Party than the Russian Federation ever will. So therefore, end the war and focus on our true enemies, the Mexican drug cartel.
Kirk's stance on Ukraine puts him in alignment with several isolationist, leaning Republicans. Figures like Rand Paul and even parts of the MAGA movement share this skepticism toward foreign wars. In this way, Kirk positions himself as part of a new conservative foreign policy school, one that rejects global policing and focuses on national sovereignty. For his audience, this adds to his credibility as a thought leader pushing the Republican Party in a new direction. Most recently, just 6 months ago, Kirk went as far as to say that the war is not against Russia, but against Ukraine's government itself. This statement stirred controversy, as it seemed to imply that Washington's real enemy isn't Moscow, but Kyiv. For critics, this was proof that Kirk's rhetoric goes too far, undermining allies while giving talking points to adversaries. For supporters, it was another example of him telling it like it island. Either way, it shows that Charlie Kirk doesn't shy away from making extreme claims that spark debate.
They are destroying their demography. For what? An extra 50 miles of land that you may or may not control? Strike a deal. But Zelensky...
So there you have it, 12 facts about Charlie Kirk. From founding a national student movement to becoming one of the loudest voices in American conservatism, he was a figure who inspired both loyalty and outrage. Whether you saw him as a visionary or a provocateur, there's no denying that Charlie Kirk left his mark on America's political culture.
I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
But today, we speak about him in the past tense. Charlie Kirk has passed away, leaving behind a legacy that will continue to shape debates about politics, culture, and America's future. Love him or hate him, his voice will not easily be forgotten. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk.